Hey everyone, it's Yaley here again. Got some sleep finally. I want to talk a bit more about this project. Some of you may wonder, why do a project like this? Why do an open world Myst game? Well, I'll make sort of the statement that there really hasn't been a game like Riven in a long time. Now we've had sort of a resurgence of puzzle games, adventure games like The Witness, Portal 2, games like Cairo, little indie games. You have like Dear Esther, kind of walking simulators. You get your puzzle focused games like Talos Principle, and you get your big exploration games like Skyrim and The Witcher. But there really hasn't been a good melding of the two genres since Riven. And I think when it comes to exploration games, a lot of them right now seem to be heavily fantasy driven, a little Tolkien-esque, or they're space sims. Um, so there's kind of a sci-fi, I'd say, bias or a fantasy bias, and there really hasn't been a game kind of like Myst and Riven, specifically Riven, that kind of blends the two in a way that I think is really interesting, the way Riven did. Now, also, I'd like to mention that when there are adventure games that come out, they tend to be again very puzzle focused. They're either purely explorational, like Dear Esther, or they're entirely puzzle focused. Now, I think what's great about Riven is it's all of the above. It's an adventure game, it's a puzzle game, it's an open world exploration game, it's an epic fantasy, it's a science fiction story. It's kind of has all the best aspects of classic in it. It has the writing is amazing, the music is amazing, the environments are interesting, unique. They're not predictable. They're not just a rehash of Tolkien or whatever. I feel Riven has a lot of Star Wars in it, has a lot of Dune in it, has some Tolkien in it, but it's kind of a mix of all these different influences, and it feels extremely believable. Now, I think since the adventure genre kind of died, I'm not because of Myst, actually, because of the Myst clones that kind of sprung up out of nowhere. I don't think any company was able to actually successfully do a Myst style game the way Cyan or Presto Studios had done them. Um, I think since the genre kind of died and came back, the industry kind of went through this phase where, doing anything that was challenging or kind of that kind of style of game kind of went out of favor. You got the WoW era came in, WoW clones, and history repeats itself, and now we find ourselves in 2016 with a bunch of adventure games coming back into the market. So really, what I'm trying to say here is that there is a gap in the market. There is a gap in games that I relate to as a gamer, someone who grew up playing Riven, someone who grew up playing watching Star Wars, reading. I got this book at home. It's sort of the the visual universe of Star Wars. It has all this art that Ralph McQuarrie painted, and these kind of intense lore descriptions written from an in-character point of view of these worlds, these planets. I think that's the kind of thing I miss, is the depth, the amount of depth and history and detail and thought that went into these worlds. And when I see adventure games come out today, they seem to be kind of one-dimensional. They seem to be more so aping Myst style, the hub age concept, kind of going for more of that sort of lighthearted, whimsical fantasy, the first Myst sort of feel. But I remember that first Myst was also very dark, had a lot of setup for what would come later, had a lot of lore, a lot of stuff that was kind of hidden in the background. In some ways, I think Robin Miller said it right when he said Myst was sort of the Hobbit and Riven was the Lord of the Rings. Now, I tend to think that Uru would be the Silmarillion, or whatever you call it, really because it's incomplete. But all that to say, I think that, what I'm trying to say is that I think that there hasn't been there hasn't been any series of games that have really or matched Riven or done that kind of style of game ever. I mean, I think Uru is a good example of a game that attempted to do that again and didn't really fare well. Um, I've seen games employ certain influences from Riven, but nothing that kind of encompasses the whole package. Now, I think when I wanted to sit down and do this project, it was really about, well, first I had the story of, what an interesting idea. Why follow the Moiety, after 200 years after Riven? Well, because I find the idea of tribal imperialism quite interesting. The idea of a society that previously had just lived on some island in the middle of an ocean, suddenly having this art, this power thrust upon them, and how they deal with it is kind of an interesting thing to think about. And now that they're sort of in this new kind of paradigm, this new paradigm, they have this paradigm shifter in this new kind of world, this around these new people, the people who actually had a terrible effect on their civilization, causing it to destroy, are now they're sort of tied at the hip because of Atris and Catherine, uh, their marriage and the Dunny and all that stuff, and how Riven and the Dunny are sort of intertwined at this point. So I think that's an interesting subject to talk about. It kind of reminds me a bit of you write a philosophical essay about this kind of stuff. But all that to say, I think um, it's the story came first, and I wanted to develop that, and I just wanted to explore more of Moiety culture. Of course, we never really saw much of Tay and Riven, so I always imagined what was behind the beyond those walls of the crater. So there's that element. And another thing, I just haven't had a good gaming experience in years. Nothing that's really rivaled Riven. Now, that may seem kind of maybe a bit, like pretentious. I don't know. I mean, I think for me, I do enjoy games like Oblivion and Skyrim and Morrowind. I enjoy games like Samaros and Machinarium. I enjoy Portal, but nothing that really spoke to me or had that kind of intellectual depth that, or art at least, art extremely was important in Riven, but nothing that really sort of took everything that I loved about worlds and writing and art and design, everything and music together and kind of produced it with exquisite finesse. There hasn't been anything like that in years. I could kind of make the comparison that sort of Myst and Riven were sort of the Star Wars of gaming for the 1990s. And I think it's about time we have sort of a revival of those kind of games. And I'm not talking about, your kind of whimsical adventure puzzle games. I'm talking about big, deep, rich epics. The kind of things, the kind of things you'd see in sci-fi fantasy novels are written about. The kind of worlds you encounter in a sci-fi fantasy novel, like Dune, or Star Wars, of course. And that's sort of what I'm getting at, is I think there needs to be more games like this. So I guess when I started designing Black Moiety, I was like, how can I truly bring epic fantasy, or epic sci-fantasy, at least in the case of Myst, back to the mainstream? That seems a bit ambitious, don't you think? But I just thought, I just did it for myself. I said, I want to do this for myself because I miss games like this. I haven't seen anything like it. In years, and I have a lot of ideas, and the ideas kind of get cluttered up in my head until I write them down, and then I say, well, maybe people will actually enjoy my ideas. I don't know. Maybe someone will like it. I mean, I don't know if it's good. I think it could be good. I think potentially what I've written is good, but I don't know until I put it out there. So really, when I decided to do Black Moiety, I was like, I just got to put it out there, see what people think of it. And I got a lot of support, and people were like, "Wow, this seems really great." Of course, most of it is original. I'm sort of taking my own direction in this project and seeing what Sign did as an influence, and saying, "Okay, well, you did that 20 years ago. Here's what I want to do," and it's totally original. Of course, I'm using Riven as a reference, as an influence, but definitely going to base sort of what we know about Tay and Moiety culture from Riven, but really the main concepts, the lore, the clan structures, all that stuff, the characters, the environments, I really kind of improvised myself, and just for myself, just because I thought it would be a really cool story. And now I say, hey, now people seem excited, and I'm like, better turn this into something, because I think that'd be a really great addition to the Myst saga. So yeah, that's about it. So I had to get that off my chest now. So basically, I'm in the hype map right now. I'm just kind of wandering around. I think I passed no, I didn't pass the Era River yet. I think it's up ahead. I think it's right here, actually. So, I wish I could go a little faster here. Um, so this is all sort of the undeveloped section of the map. Um, no, I might have to change some of this. There's mountains here, but I kind of planned a village called Nava, which is this sort of tall forested area. Right about here, right about next to this where this river branches off, and it's going to be sort of I was kind of influenced by Richard van der Wen's concepts for Tay. I once had a dream. I think I just envisioned a location in Tay, this kind of this forest, these jungle village, jungle island like trees, kind of jutting out of these little mounds or hills in the forest, and there'd be people living inside those mounds with windows, and they'd have some sort of walkway inside the tree that kind of goes up to the canopy, and from there they have walkways and connecting the trees together. That's kind of something I thought of that I thought would be really nice. Just came to me one day, but yeah, so it's all sort of, this is all kind of what I want to do with this age. I know it seems like a lot, but um, I mean, I just really want there to be more games like Riven, more games that have that magic to them. And it's not to say Myst didn't have magic. Myst had tons of magic. It was an amazing game, but I think what stuck with me out of all the games in the series was Riven, because really Sign truly fleshed out that game. They truly fleshed out that age. It wasn't just a hub structure, where each age is sort of different and unique. I mean, I really like that Riven was we're just plopped in this world and we have to discover everything about this world. And I thought they spent 4 years making that game, so 4 years developing the lore and how everything was tied together, how the world had a sense of depth to it. It felt it felt sorry. It felt real. It felt lived in. Things you encountered, the puzzles related to the story in fabulous ways. I mean, the Wark game in the village schoolhouse is a perfect example of that. And that's the kind of thing I just love about Sign. I think they're really good at visual storytelling. That's the kind of thing I want to aspire to. So yeah, it's a little bit of information about why I want to do this project. This you can see here is extruded. This is not finalized. This is just the outline of the river. And when I get back to the map to do some more editing, I will paint this out so it gets flat, and the river will kind of curve inwards, and it'll be done. So right now I'm trying to go to the volcano, Mount Gen. So the reason why I chose Mount Gen as a name, well, in the lore I've written, basically, in Riven, Gen wrote the first draft of the Age of Tay. Now, Catherine, when she came back to Riven, wrote a second draft, which is the final age, what it became. And it's because in Riven they had to take whatever books were available. Now, in the lore I've kind of come up with, Mount Gen is one of the products of Gen's writing, that Catherine, for either time reasons or just she couldn't manage to recalculate the ecology, rewrite the ecology of the age, the mountain remains from Gen's first draft. There it is, right over there. So essentially, Mount Gen is sort of the wart, the sore thumb of the age, the thorn in the side of the age that reminds everyone, reminds all the Moiety of their past, of why they're here, of Gen's horrible dominion over Riven, and I want to kind of sort of use that as a basis for giving kind of a cultural backstory to the age and to the culture. So I thought it'd be interesting if the Moiety see that as almost a gift to their age. That although their age is harsh, it's stark, it's covered in ash, and there's these bogs and jungles in the west, and rain, and it's windy, and it's harsh, and there's all sorts of strange, exotic, dangerous fauna. I thought, well, they would see this as something that imbues them with strength and vigor, as opposed to a reminder of where they came from. So I thought that would be a really interesting twist to take with their culture, that an age of harshness imbues strength and strong personality. So there's a volcano right there, and you can see the outline of the coast of the bay, Black Lake. Yeah, so I know I'm kind of rambling here. I just wanted to explain why I thought this project would be the one to do. I had a lot of other projects, a lot of other concepts for games in my mind, but I really didn't feel like they were ready. They didn't feel like the right story for this time. And also, I think people just love Myst. They love Riven. I love Myst. I feel like it's kind of a bit easier to do a story that's familiar than something that's just totally off the wall that people don't have a context for. Of course, this this is a totally new era. It's not 1806 when Myst takes place. It's the time we live in now. So there is a lot of changes since the time of Riven. So there is a lot of creativity, creative liberty taken with this project. So I guess that's about it. I'll probably upload something in a while later. This is the last video I'm doing of the bunch. So yeah, I'm just going to zoom out here, show you the map in total, and this is all not done yet. This is all just kind of very vague. There's the dividing range. This is where the northern wastes will go. Steam marshes will be up here. This is the Sacred Valley right here. So the hive is technically right about there. And this is the Wild East right over here, which isn't done yet. So I guess I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.